All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning to you. It is Friday, September 11th, 2020. And this morning, I have a very special guest for you. My good friend, my business partner, retired police officer, and 9/11 responder, Mr. Joe Groccia, is in the green room right now. We are about to get started here talking about just everything that transpired on that day that so many of us remember very well. So let's get started.
It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday to you. So this is one of those days, man. It's a little almost uncomfortable, right, to even say good morning or to say the things that we normally say, because this is such a big day in American history, and for so many people who lost loved ones. And a special shout out to my wife. My wife's father passed away on this day as well. In Pittsburgh here, but special shout out and love to my wife and her family this morning. So I wanted to bring Joe on because I think that, I've heard some of these stories and some of the firsthand accounts of kind of how things transpired on that day. And it provides immense perspective. And I've told Joe this a million times, but I have so much respect for what law enforcement does in general. And, this is a day, as you guys hear these stories that Joe will share this morning, this is a day that just shows the very best of what we have in law enforcement and in first responders and all the way around. So, Joe, I wanted to get started, just give everybody a little bit of background on, kind of your career before private business in law enforcement, and, just give everybody kind of a couple minute Cliff's Notes version of, your career in law enforcement and leading up to that day of 9/11.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Groccia. Obviously, I'm partnered with Brian in the Pavement Group. Prior to that, I was a law enforcement officer for 20 years in the town of Eastchester, New York, which is approximately 6 miles north of New York City. So it would be the suburbs of New York. I was hired in August of 1996 by the Eastchester Police Department. After the academy, I transitioned into patrol for a couple of years, got promoted to the traffic unit, where I was that lovely man that got to write tickets. At which point I was put into our dive unit due to the fact that we had a couple of lakes. Also tried out for and made our SWAT team. We had a multi-jurisdictional SWAT team, so it was us, Tuckahoe, Pelham, and Bronxville all together. On September 11th, I was assigned to Blythedale's Children's Hospital to learn how to put in child passenger safety seats, or as you guys all know, car seats. So I was in the hospital at 8 o'clock in the morning with approximately 14 other officers awaiting the start of the day, at which point we were all hanging out, having our coffee and donuts, because that's what police officers do. And we had the TV on, at which point an alert came on. The alert came on, and we saw the tower, I don't remember which one, but was smoking, and it was struck. Back in the days, for some of you youngsters, we did not have cell phones. We had beepers. So I would say within 3 to 5 minutes, everyone's beeper started going off crazy. We all looked down. Obviously, it was our headquarters telling us to give them a call. We all basically scurried to the phone, called our headquarters, at which point I was ordered back to the town of Eastchester to gear up, as we did not know what was going on at that time. We did not know if this was a one-off, where it was just one building, if we were under attack from invading forces. So being that not knowing what we were going on, we all had to rush back. I got back to headquarters quite quickly, at which point I was told to gear up, as I was the driver of the SWAT vehicle. So anything that had to happen, I had to go anywhere, I had to be a part of it because that was my truck. At around 11 o'clock that morning, give me a second. At 11 o'clock that morning, we got a message over our county hotline. County hotline, for the people that don't know, sort of like a bat phone. It's on 24 hours a day. It's an open mic situation. If you have something to say, you identify your department, you identify yourself, and you state what you need. The county and New York City requested that we send only highly trained SWAT officers or special officers with dogs and everything to help in defending our country, as they like to put it. So myself and 7 other members of my department and Tucko jumped in the van and started to head down to New York City. I hooked up with approximately 7 other departments on the local parkway, at which point we attempted to make it down to New York City. I've never seen so much traffic in my life. Every car was just stopped. People didn't know what to do. We drove on the sidewalks and the side of the road all the way down the Sawmill Parkway, and then we got to the West Side Highway. So part of the problem with the West Side Highway was it's now approximately 3 hours after the towers have been struck and collapsed. Subways had been shut off, boats, the Circle Line was no longer working, and people were trying to escape the city. Problem with that is they don't use sidewalks. They walk in the middle of the roadway. So as I'm going down the West Side Highway, I'm not running into, but pulling up to people that were completely covered with cement dust, powder, paper. I mean, you can't describe the look. I don't want to minimize it, but it almost looked like a zombie apocalypse in the sense of people were just dazed, confused. You're honking the horn, you have your siren on, and they are not paying attention to you. They are not looking at you. They are staring off into the distance. So at that point, obviously, we safely transitioned past them and went down to Jacob Javits Center, which is the New York City Convention Center. We met up there. That was going to be our base of operation. Also, you should be aware at that time, multiple fighter jets and helicopters were circling low around New York City in defense of any other planes that were going to go in. So I got down there due to the fact that I was our certified driver and I had gone through a course called EVOC, which is a basic vehicle operation course. I got picked right away by NYPD and my chief to be the driver of one of the NYPD cars, and they assigned me to go back and forth from New York Presbyterian and Bellevue Hospital, which, if anybody knows New York City, is on the east side of New York City between 62nd Street and 33rd, depending on which hospital. I was assigned to go pick up medical doctors from there. I raced across 42nd Street, picked the doctors up, came back across 42nd Street, which was completely shut down by the local PD, ran down the West Side Highway to 89, PS 89, which is West Street and Chambers, which is 2 blocks north of the towers. I took approximately 3 to 4 doctors every trip. I did look at it once. I think I did about 7 trips with doctors, and I was driving quite fast. For those that know me, about 60 miles an hour with them. Did that for a couple of hours, at which point they realized we didn't think we would be able to rescue anybody. So my job changed, and then I transitioned to driving psychiatric doctors and personnel down to PS 89, which ultimately did become a morgue and a place where the first responders would, meet and talk. So I did that for a couple of hours. I would say probably till about 3:30, 4 o'clock, at which point there was a lot of digging going on down at the pit. So myself and a couple of my officers, including one of my best friends, Anthony Sarasi, went down to, pull up the pit. We started to help dig whatever they needed to do. We did, and again, helping people. There were a lot of people just milling around. Part of our job as an outside agency was to keep the area secure. So, there were the people there that, have to take pictures of things, have to try to take advantage of situations. So we did a little security there. We did walk around, trying to just make sure that nobody was stealing stuff from the police cars, the fire engines that had just been abandoned right outside of the towers. And then the thing that I'll never forget, at approximately 5:20 in the afternoon, I was down in the area of Chambers and West Street, and we felt the rumble of the earth. And that was when Building 7 collapsed. So Building 7, for those that don't know, was a 49-story, I believe it was a red brickish building. Con Edison, which is our main power, had their substation below it. It buckled and came roaring down. The sound is something that I can't describe. You felt the ground shaking under your feet. You've never seen men run so fast in your life. Literally, there was a horn that went off and everybody just said, run. I turned, headed northbound with my friend, and ran like there was no tomorrow. What was difficult of that is, due to the fact that the towers had collapsed, all that cement had disintegrated. So I had approximately 6 to 8 inches of cement dust to try to run through as we were trying to escape, because no one knows which way the building's going to turn, know which way it's going to fall. I mean, I had looked down one road just prior, and part of the tower was laying sideways on a local street. It looked like Escape from New York, if you've ever seen the Kurt Russell movie. So that building came down. Obviously, it took us about 45 minutes to an hour to realize what was going on there. Thank God no one was in that building. It had been evacuated, so there were no fatalities. All the first responders had gotten away. And then we continued doing what we were doing. I was then, just so you know, assigned to, due to the fact that I had heavy weapons with me also, I believe it was Firehouse 6. So Firehouse 6 was one of the ladders. I think it was 6. Yeah, one of the ladders that was assigned down there. They lost most of their crew. There are some people there that take advantage of situations. People were going into the ladder house, stealing turnout gear, stealing helmets so that they could be part of the rescue. So, I mean, I understand them wanting to help, but, they were basically taking equipment that first responders needed. So, excuse me, sorry about that. So, go ahead, Brian, you say something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, like, obviously the environment down there, and you kind of, you get a feel for it, just you telling the story, like just the feel of people, and so, when you get down there, and to give everybody, and I'll post this in the comments here, but it was 8:46 a.m. is when the North Tower was struck. No, somehow I got muted. Sorry about that. So 8:46 a.m. the North Tower was struck. 9:03 the South Tower was struck. 9:37, the Pentagon was hit. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapsed. 10:07, Flight 93 crashed here in Pennsylvania. And at 10:28, the North Tower collapsed. And so by the time you got there, all of that had transpired, right? And you pretty much knew what you were getting into was a rough situation. And so, and you described, people looking like zombies. And, before we jumped on here this morning, Joe and I were talking just briefly. And, one of the things that I wanted to talk about this morning was, obviously that day, and you guys could get to hear, a firsthand account of what that kind of looked like. But I also wanted to talk about, the days past that, right? Where, things started to change. I just got chills talking about it because, hearing your, expressions about that and how things changed from that look of zombies to, people, just caring about each other, right? And gaining that perspective. And I think, as I said to you before we got on here, I think that, America is in a place that needs that right now. It's a time when people need to come together, and, we need to understand the sacrifices that were before, that were made before us, that continue to give us the opportunity to live in this great country. And so, can you talk a little bit about that, the days following, and what that looked like as people started to, come together and realize what we had to do to get through that situation?
Right. So the day after 9/11, I did get assigned to, for people that don't know, prior to becoming a law enforcement officer, I worked for Poland Springs, the water company. So what had happened was Poland Springs donated multiple trucks of water for the first responders so they could hydrate. So I got assigned to running them all over Lower Manhattan to deliver the stuff. And basically I was hanging off the side of a truck. Well, when we started to do that, people came out of their houses, people came out of their restaurants, clapping for us, thanking both us and Poland Springs for donating the water. I got flagged down from a local restaurateur who basically said, "What do you guys need food-wise? I will make it for you as much as you need, and you guys can deliver it to all the first responders." The open arms that I felt down there, the love that I felt afterwards. I mean, I was literally, when I went down in the morning, there were people standing in the middle of the West Side Highway. There's a cement garden area that runs through the highway. All they were doing were clapping at us. They were waving to us. They were saying thank you. It was one of the greatest outpourings of love that I've ever seen from anybody in this country. It didn't matter if you were black, white, yellow, green, purple. Everyone was one in those days. Everyone just wanted to help in their own small way, whether it be, like I said, donating sandwiches, offering people. Literally, at one point, I was trekking through the bottom of New York City when I was being assigned from one position to another, and a gentleman came and said, "Would you like to come take a shower in my house? My house is your house." I mean, that doesn't happen. That never happened. I don't know if it ever will happen, but we were all one at that time. There was no divisiveness. There was no law enforcement versus everybody else. It was just, we were one country. We were going through this tragedy, and we were going to do everything we could to make somebody's life better, So, I mean, it's hard to describe the outpouring. As I said, I had people coming up to me, hugging me. Again, I ate very well down there for a couple of days. People would come out. I mean, at one point we were sitting in the van, and we were going to go to another position, and some guy came up and 5 trays of lasagna. And it was probably the best lasagna I ever had, only because of where the situation we were, what we were doing. And it was just, he just dropped it off and says, "Thank you very much for everything you've done," and walked away, So you had to see also Jacob Javits being our distribution center, the amount of stuff that was donated for first responders, being boots, gloves, helmets, safety glasses. Like everyone cared about what we were doing. You know, everybody gave of themselves. I mean, just so you know, with me, my department did not pay me for that. It was all a volunteer basis. So I volunteered for 5 days. Every other one of my officers with me volunteered as long as we could go down, and I would have continued to go down. But after 5 days, New York City said, thanks, but no thanks. We've got this handled. You guys are no longer needed. But those 5 days will stick in my head forever because of mainly the way the people were to us, the way that they emotionally accepted us into their lives, into, you know, they understood what we were trying to do. We were trying to find people. We were trying to rescue people. I mean, you know, there's numerous times during the day that the dogs, which are the unsung heroes there, were hearing sounds, finding things. I mean, it was just, you know, it's hard to describe. It was very, you know, very touching when I look back at it. At the time, it was just greatly appreciated. And, you know, I wish society could get back to that way of we all love each other, because it just doesn't seem like that right now. It's just, when you look at that moment 19 years ago to today, it's gotten, I don't know what happened. I really don't. I don't know the solution. I think we've just got to put all this political stuff aside and get back to being one country. So.
Yeah, no question, man. And, you know, having been, for those of you who have not been to New York City, you know, one of the first things that we did as a company, actually, we had a meeting in New York City, and well, outside of New York, and we went into New York City, and we went and toured the 9/11 museum, and we went to the 9/11 memorial. And for those of you watching who haven't been to either of those places, and to the new Freedom Tower, it is something special. And, you know, and getting to tour that city with, you know, and to go to that memorial with someone who has experienced this firsthand, like Joe, it's something you'll never forget. And it's something that I believe, you know, when I asked Joe to do this, I said, man, I'll understand if you don't want to, because I know it's an emotional thing. I can tell you that there were multiple moments in that day that there were tears running down my face. And, you know, you feel the weight of that situation on both sides of it, on the sadness of the loss of people, but also on the pride of what Joe was just describing, of the unsung heroes and the people that just put everything aside, right? Put themselves, their own needs and wishes to the side, and they just served our country and served each other and loved each other, and you know, opened up their homes and opened up their families to do whatever it took to make, you know, to make it better, right? To make it as good as we could make it. And so, you know, I ask you guys that are watching, you know, to think about that day, you know, to think about that day 19 years ago and where we were, and, you know, to think about, again, law enforcement, all the things that are going on in our country. Love cures all that, you know, and when you put all the differences aside and you try to see the good in people, there's so much good out there, right? And I look at 9/11 exactly how I described, you know, the massive loss and the weight of that, but also those moments in history always define people, right? And when you look at America, I remember that time like it was yesterday, right? I remember, and I wasn't in New York City, but I remember America. I remember our country coming together, and I remember, you know, George Bush, you know, giving his speech through that megaphone, and it was about unity, right? It was about doing whatever it took to help each other. And so, you know, with that said, man, you know, publicly, I just want to say thank you for everything that you did, for setting a great example for, you know, for everybody in our company and for all these people that are watching. As Todd said in here earlier, you know, everybody's proud to know you, man. And the fact that you're willing to come on here and share that story, I know is not easy to do. It's a very emotional thing. You got a lot of thank yous for your service in here. Dom Manzo, who was also a firefighter at a point in his career. Now he's a seal coder, but back then he was a firefighter.
What
how time changes things, right?
happened?
But just proud to know you, man, and thank you for sharing the story. I hope the story gives everybody, some perspective on this day. It gives you some pause about the things that are going on in our world. And as Trudy just said, it's one nation under God. This is not a divisive place. It is a place of unity. And this should be a day to remember that, right? To, take those lives that were lost that day and look at those and really let that sink in for a minute and think about what we can do as a country to pull it together, right? To be there for each other, go back to that date and remember what it felt like, and move forward accordingly. Any final words to leave people with for this day?
On this, no. Again, just love your family, love your friends. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. As those thousands of people went to bed last night, 19 years ago, and did not realize it was going to be the last night they kissed their wives, kissed their kids. Just understand there is goodness in people. There's greatness in people. People rise to the top when it's needed. We're all there for each other. Let's just get back to being America again. That's, to me, is what I take from this. I mean, again, I will never ever forget that day. I will never forget the love that I felt, that me and all first responders felt. There was, everybody was there helping everybody else in their own small way. And as a society, that's what we have to get back to. Stop with the rhetoric and the politics. It's not what we are. One great nation. We have to get back into being one great nation. So, and please don't forget this day. Stay off your Facebook and do all that for me if you can, short of honoring the lost, the people that died that day, and the people that have died consistently every day since then from the after effects. So, I mean, I do, not to bring it on a downer, but I have a couple of officers I went with that are suffering. I do get a physical every year at Mount Sinai Hospital to check it. So this is not over yet. It's, people are still perishing day after day after day. Let's not forget them either. They went in there to do the right thing, and all I ask is the government to stand by everyone that was there. Be it civilians, be it first responders. It's it's a tough day, but with all your love and your support and everything, we can get through this. So, thank you for the time, Brian.
Amen. Thank you for being here, man. There's a lot of great comments in here. You'll have to break your own rule and spend a couple minutes on Facebook reading those. But
no, I don't have a problem with Facebook. I have a problem with let's not talk politics today. Let's just remember today. That's
amen to that, man. Amen to that. And and I would also leave you with this. Just because someone has a difference of opinion does not make them your enemy. And it doesn't make them a bad person and you a good person, or vice versa. It's a difference of opinion. And again, a day like this is a day where we find a way to put all those opinions to the side and be Americans and stand by each other. And I will say it again. Love cures it all, man. Cures it all. Give somebody a hug today. Shake their hand, hold the door for them. Do the things that we all know are supposed to be done and that help everybody, right? Help make everybody a better person. When somebody gives you a good long smile when you're walking into a store, or they hold the door for you, they say good morning to you, it doesn't make your day worse. That's for sure. It makes it a lot better. So do that today. Be great Americans today. Be great people today. And we will see you Monday morning again, same place, same time. right here on Morning Perspective. Love you guys. Appreciate it.